This is C.L.S. All-in-One, and today we're going to be installing a pure Android car stereo in a 2014 Chevrolet Camaro. So this is a double-din car stereo with an Android 4.4 operating system, capacitive screen. It operates pretty much just like a tablet, but it has speaker connections for your cars. It's got video inputs, video outputs, Bluetooth capability for your phones, and much more. And to install this car stereo, I'm going to use a Scosche Dash kit. They're a little pricey, but there's really no way to install this without having some sort of aftermarket dash kit. And this dash kit also replaces your knobs for your heater controls and gives you touchscreen support for that also. So we're going to start with removing the stock stereo. Before we start, you're going to want to make sure you have some sort of dash tool that's made of plastic or nylon so you don't damage the plastics inside your car. So we're going to start with removing this plastic trim piece that surrounds your shifter. So you're going to just gently pry up on it on all the edges there until you can remove it by hand. Now we're going to set that off to the side. No need to unplug it, we can just simply set it off to the side. Now there's going to be two screws located on the bottom of the stereo here, on each side, we're going to have to remove. Once those are removed, we can start popping off the stereo. So you're going to use your plastic dash tool again and start prying on all the edges until it pops loose. Once it's loose, go ahead and pull it forward and let it rest straight down right in front of the shifter. Now we need to unplug the wire harnesses that are located behind it. So there's going to be one wire harness here. We need to unclip that. Once we have this unclipped, we can set that aside. This is basically just a big huge faceplate for your stereo. Now we need to remove the main part of the stereo. There's going to be 4 screws in each corner that we need to remove. Once the screws are removed, go ahead and pull it straight out and let that rest right in front of the shifter. Now there's going to be wire harnesses to remove here also. There's going to be the main wire harness, which is right here. You're just going to pop up the clip and that'll pull right out of there. And there's going to be a GPS antenna to unplug and a radio antenna to unplug. Now that those are removed, we can go ahead and set the radio aside. Now that the radio is removed, it's time to go ahead and run any extra wiring that's needed. So right here is a look at the video cord that I ran from my backup camera. And I also ran wiring for a GPS antenna. And I ran the wiring down here by my shifter, and that'll be hidden by the trim plate that'll go back on after the stereo installation is complete. You can also route your GPS sensor to the top of the dash or just mount it right on top of the stereo. So here's a look at the Scosche Dash kit. It's designed for a double-din car stereo and it replaces all the knobs at the bottom of the stereo there. It gives me a touchscreen control instead. And it comes with a built-in plug-and-play wire harness already attached. It plugs into the factory radio harnesses on your car. So the most difficult part about installing the Android stereo is that you're going to find out that it's not standard size. If you go to try to fit this in the dash kit you just purchased, it's not going to fit because the Android stereos are slightly bigger. So to correct this problem, you're going to have to trim the dash kit. So you're going to have to get accurate measurements on your stereo to find out how much you're going to have to trim your dash plate. You want to make sure you have very accurate cuts because there's not much room for error. Now it's time to measure the dash kit to find out how much you have to trim. So this particular Android stereo has a small lip that goes all the way around. And this small lip is what's going to cover the cut. But the lip is very small, so that's why the cut has to be very precise. And to cut the dash plate, you can either use a Dremel or a multi-tool. I'll be using a multi-tool. And I'm going to start with just shaving small amounts off of each side and the bottom. I'm actually just going to leave the top alone. And what I did is after each small cut I made, I would check the fitment of the stereo to see if I needed to go more or not. So just cut in very small increments until that stereo fits perfectly. So remember, you can always cut it bigger. If you have it too big to begin with, you're going to have gaps. Alright, my necessary cuts have been made. Now it's time to install the stereo into my dash kit. So it should be a nice tight fit sliding it in. You don't want any play in it. Make sure you take special care of your dash kit when you're pushing the radio through. You want to make sure you don't crack or break it. Okay, we have it pushed all the way in. Now let's take a closer look at it and make sure there's no gaps. We'll go all the way around here. See, that lip covers those cuts perfectly, so we don't see any gaps. Now we need to secure it to the dash kit. So to secure it, I'm going to use a construction adhesive made by Loctite. It comes in a clear formula and it bonds to both metal and plastic. And this adhesive has a very quick curing time, so you don't have to wait all day for it to dry. So here's a look at the adhesive now that it's cured. I've applied some to the sides and to the top, and it has a very strong bond. I've had my Camaro for 2 years and I've never had an issue with this adhesive. So we're just about ready to install this Android stereo in the car. These are the two wire harnesses that are going to plug into the stock radio harnesses that we took out, and this is the wire harness for the Android car stereo that I've spliced into this new wire harness. So we're back out in the car now, and we're going to plug in the dash kit to the factory radio harnesses here. So there's going to be two OEM radio harnesses to install. Once those are plugged in, it's time to install your dash kit. So the dash kit itself installs fairly easy. It's just got two screws on the bottom where it secures, and then on the sides and the top it's got clips that secure it into place up there. The hardest part is making sure you stuff this wiring properly to where everything fits right. There's a lot of extra wiring with that huge wire harness that came with the dash kit. So you want to stuff that wiring as neat as possible so everything fits in place okay. And before I secured the top in place, I actually put a couple dabs of construction adhesive inside where the clips went. That way it gave it a little bit of extra bite so it couldn't pop loose because of the extra weight of the stereo. Alright, we're all done. We got a nice Android head unit now installed on our 2014 Chevrolet Camaro. Thanks for watching. This is C.L.S. All in One. If you want to hear more from me, please like and subscribe.